Wanted to quickly point out here a few points from an excellent thread by the Caesar, Tom Brady, on the topic of AI and jobs. Matt Walsh here is saying that AI is going to wipe out at least 25 million jobs in the next 5 to 10 years, probably much more. It will destroy every creative field. It will make it impossible to discern reality from fiction. And there's maybe some truth in some of this, actually. The AI wave is going to be truly revolutionary, I believe. I think we had the technological and industrial revolution, and then we had the digital revolution, and it feels like the AI revolution may be something even different than that, further revolutionizing what it means to be a human in the modern world. But right now, I'm going to focus just on the job openings in this video because there's a great thread from Tom Brady on this one. Christian Hanens, I probably said that wrong, says this has already begun and showed this graph here that we've seen quite a few places. Total job openings versus the S&P 500. You can see the red S&P 500 pretty much follows the job openings up and down. The black line is the job openings. And when things are going poorly for the economy, the job openings go down. And when things are going well for the economy, the job openings go right back up. But then right here, see this crossover, things changed. They became detached. The job openings went down, but the economy went up. And that happens to be 2023, right when ChatGPT was dropped. So the argument here is that it's already begun. We are already seeing less job openings because these jobs supposedly are being done by AI. That's why the economy is going up. The economy is running on AI now, is the idea. Well, Tom Brady has a great response to this. I really enjoyed this thread and learned something, so I wanted to talk about it a little bit. He says, I don't think any of these jobs are being lost due to AI. I think it's 100% caused by interest rates and offshoring to India. The idea that AI is causing a reduction in entry-level jobs is a pretext used to justify stock prices. But so far, AI has led to decreased productivity. He's got a report here from the CNBC that says that JP Morgan is reducing its ratio of junior investment bankers. However, the CNBC says that half the remaining bankers would be working in locations like India and Argentina. If you're in London and New York, a 2/3 reduction might be correct. So most people in London and New York are going to be cut, and most people who are remaining are going to be in India or Argentina. They say this is the result of AI, right? But let's continue with Tom Brady. He says, we barely know how many legal or illegal immigrants are in America. Data is even worse tracking the amount of offshoring to India, China, Mexico, other global labor arbitrage nations. I would guess offshoring in the ballpark of 50 million jobs. He's saying here we barely have real data on how many illegal immigrants there are in America, barely even on how many legal immigrants. So we have much less reliable data on how many of our workers are going offshore, how many of our jobs are being stolen from us by our companies like JP Morgan, sending our jobs to locations like India and Argentina. Low-cost locations like India and Argentina. Low cost being the important part of that sentence because this is all being done to save money, which is good for your stock price. The stock price go up, the job openings go down because this is counting American job openings, not Indian and Argentinian job openings, right? They'll say it's the result of AI, but why are they cutting 2/3 of London and New York and keeping half the remaining bankers in India and Argentina? Because it's cheaper, right? These jobs are being stolen from us, stolen from Americans by American companies like JP Morgan, which is, as you know, an American financial institution in New York City, has been one of the main American financial institutions for over 100 years. So what he's saying is that Matt Walsh's take here that AI is going to wipe out all these jobs and do all these things is just the most extreme, inaccurate doomer take. The truth is that all of the job disruptions being predicted happened more than 100 years ago, and society never recovered. His example, 75% of men used to work on farms. Now it is around 2.5%. What disruption was that? That was the Industrial Revolution that I mentioned before. The Industrial Revolution, which happened over 100 years ago, has not been solved. The disruptions have just continued. We did not come to an answer when we disrupted everything, 75% of men, after the Industrial Revolution. We don't know what to do with all these people. The WEF and our elites say we should reduce the number of people dramatically. We should just have less people because we don't need them working on farms anymore, apparently. Let's look at a few of his examples. Here's the percentage of the labor force employed in agriculture in the United States, 1800 to 2000. And that is the time period we need because it was right about here, middle of the 1800s, that the Industrial Revolution was really kicking off here. You can just see it boom, plummeting from 75 down to nobody working in agriculture. Here's the entire labor force participation rate for men. This is just how much men are participating in the labor force. And that ain't looking too well either. Isn't that interesting? What are our men doing if they're not working? Well, maybe they're on welfare. Maybe they're living with their parents in their parents' basement. Maybe they're stay-at-home dads, but they are way down. I mean, it's not as dramatic. It's not from 75 to nothing, but it's up from 85%, above 85% in 1950, down to like 65-ish% in 2020. That's a pretty big drop. It's a pretty big drop. That's like 20% of your men are now no longer in the labor force. This is all happening before AI, remember. Oh yes, the classic Jew daycare meme. If you haven't seen this before, it's great. This is that video of itty bitty titties in a bob or whatever, Gen Z boss in a mini. Really annoying women made a video on TikTok at their job, and it went viral as just the cringe levels were triggering all the internet autists who have to actually live and work in these extremely feminized offices. Here is the meme. Finally got a job, average of 7 to 8 Zoom meetings per day. Woman to man ratio is at least 10 to 1. This is unfortunately the reality for so many young men when they get their first job. They struggle for it. You know, you go to school, you fight in the very competitive market to get that job, and you sit on Zoom all day, and there's just 10 to 1 women. In my particular industry, it's probably greater than this. 15 to 1 would be average, I would say. And what does he say? This economy isn't real. It's Jew daycare to make sure women don't have children, which is obviously funny, but the environment that he describes is accurate for many men. So it's over. It's even more over than was previously thought possible. Continuing on, Tom Brady says, the basic thesis is that AI is going to lead to increased productivity that eliminates 5 to 25 million jobs, right? That's the Matt Walsh thesis here, right? There's a bunch of jobs that's going to be done by AI that we don't need to do anymore because AI is going to do it, which is probably true. I will grant that to Matt Walsh. That is true. Just like the Industrial Revolution, we don't need 75% of our men to be working on farms in order to have food on the table, right? We have machines invented in mostly the 19th century, but perfected in the 20th century, who are doing all of our farming for us. One man with an industrialized farm can do what thousands of men could not before the Industrial Revolution. So the replacement that AI is going to bring is very much real, but it didn't happen immediately when ChatGPT was dropped in 2023, which is when we saw the labor market disconnect from the economy, remember. And that's insane to say that that just happened automatically. Most of the applications of AI that Matt Walsh is talking about have not happened yet. He's talking about the next 5 to 10 years. ChatGPT didn't just drop and all of a sudden everyone's using it as their attorney for their corporation. No. We still hire attorneys. So this basic thesis is that we're going to have such extreme productivity that we eliminate all these jobs. But this doesn't make sense when you consider that the current jobs are fake, such as black women at the DMV. And he's got a book here written by David Graeber on bullshit jobs, a theory of fake jobs. Great book if you haven't read it. But going back to this meme, most jobs are women sitting on Zoom. Many corporate American jobs are women sitting on Zoom planning things and sending emails. And that's the kind of fake job that Tom Brady here is referring to. He is referring to the fact that we don't need AI to do these jobs because they're fake jobs in the first place, such as black women at the DMV. Tony Soprano and the mafia will keep getting paid for their no-show union jobs regardless of technological innovation because their revenues are criminal political extraction of patronage rather than flowing from some economic function. Who is he talking about? He's talking about the black women at the DMV, obviously. There are these DEI jobs that we give to these women, and if they don't perform, we will never ever fire them. Because if we do, we might be facing a discrimination lawsuit, right? That is the criminal political extraction of patronage. Here's an example tweet here. This was back when Data Republican was doing all that work on the Doge info, when we got all that Doge government info. I think Data Republican is a female. She was diving into the data and showing what all these NGOs were using with the USAID money and how it was being squandered on things. And then she said, after spending too much time on the award search tool, I'm starting to wonder if we've had a universal basic income system all along for one political party, just disguised as grants. So here the idea is the Democrat Party was using grants to give a universal basic income to their own voters, to their own voter class. And who are their voter classes? Well, it's poor people and black people and minorities, right? Tantum says, it was already known that 13.4% of Americans work directly for the government, but it turns out a huge number of the 12.8 million nonprofit workers are also subsisting entirely off government grants. So the real total could be 24%. And that doesn't even include fake consultants and contractors for stuff like DEI, development aid, etc., that are for profit but only have a single client, right? So we've got 13% of the country works directly for the government, but then we've got 12.8 million other workers who work in nonprofits but are living entirely off of government grants. So it could be more like 24% work for the government. But then we've got all these other people in these like fake industries that are also completely subsisting off of grants, but they're just not nonprofit workers. They don't work directly for NGOs, but they're in these fields like DEI that are for profit, but still only basically work for the government or are living off of government grants. And even that doesn't include the black woman at the DMV. Because make no mistake, the black woman at the DMV is also part of a criminal political extraction of patronage, right? Because they are working tribally. They will hire at the government tribally. They will give out grants tribally. There are industries like DEI and development aid that operate tribally, and they all get government money. They all get that money. So they're not getting replaced by AI. Right? They're still getting paid because they're not actually doing anything. They're not fulfilling an economic function. They're extracting patronage. That's the idea. Tom Brady says, AI may be able to code proficiently, but there are already 12 million unemployed or underemployed American men with STEM degrees. Labor productivity is not the defining variable here, right? We may eventually be able to get AI guys that can, AI agents that can code better than these guys. But Tom Brady's point here is that there are already 12 million guys who can't get a job before AI has replaced them. Remember, Matt Walsh was talking about 5 to 10 years. Right now we have this problem. Why? Well, of course, it's again that political extraction process. Look at this message that he received. I work for a company you probably think is an American company. To illustrate the problems with tech, so people have real numbers, I have a daily meeting with 37 people on it. 22 of them are Indian, with at least 7 of them being H-1Bs. I have a second meeting for only onshore devs to discuss new tech that we are encountering. 22 devs on this meeting, and 9 are H-1Bs. I have been pushing the team to hire new grads for 6 years. We hired 3 new grad software engineers, all female. One of them, and I'm not exaggerating, could not program, as in could not write a simple if statement. I worked with her for an hour a day for 3 weeks trying to get her to understand she needed to be putting in hours outside of work until she finally quit. They hired another dev after that, another female. Only 22% of new grad devs are female, and we hired 4 in a row. This is why young men are so mad. We are getting replaced by H-1Bs on one end, and on the other, the entire 22% of females, even if they literally cannot write code, get hired before a man is hired. This is a great testimony because I've seen it in action over and over in corporate America. This is the criminal political extraction of patronage. And what's Tom Brady's point? He's saying AI is not going to replace this because productivity is not the defining variable here. We are not hiring these women because they are productive. We are not even hiring these H-1Bs or Indians because they are productive. We are hiring the women because we want to hire women. We are hiring the Indians because we want to hire Indians. That's what we're doing. It has nothing to do with labor productivity. So AI may be super productive, but we already have this problem. This problem is why we are seeing the division between job openings and stock prices. We're saving money by offshoring jobs and blaming AI. Here's a simple test. Is AI going to eliminate the jobs of black women at the DMV or TSA? That's a rhetorical question because the obvious answer is like, no, that would be racist, right? It would be racist to let AI replace a black woman. It would not, of course, be racist to let AI replace a white man. That is the state of our DEI patronage extraction. Moving on, 12% of New York City's nominal private sector is made up of a single medical program. This is insane, where people receive government checks. So in the private sector of New York City, 12% of their private sector is made up of a medical program where people receive government checks. Is this welfare program going to be eliminated by AI? Somehow I doubt it. And the money is going to foreigners, by the way. Look at this. Just consider the New York State Medicaid funded program for paying people to stay home with aging relatives. Back in 2014, only 20,000 people were paid by the program. When eligibility rules changed in 2015 during the outgoing Obama administration, the number jumped to 250,000. Today, the figure is more than 620,000 people. This taxpayer-funded program now makes up 12% of New York City's private sector jobs, according to Bloomberg. So, New York State Medicaid, taxpayer-funded Medicaid, is paying people to stay home with old people and take care of them. And this now makes up 12% of the private sector jobs, the non-government jobs in New York City. 12% of the private sector jobs in New York City is the taxes paying people to stay home with their old relatives. Is AI going to replace that? Somehow I doubt it. The point here is that we're not paying these people to be productive. This is not an efficiency problem. And the money is going to foreigners, by the way. A lot of the current economy is simply racial discrimination in competition with the 100 million excess foreigners. Here is a really interesting graph. It's the employment level of foreign-born people in the United States and native-born people in the United States. Okay, the red line are people who live in the United States who were not born here. They may be legal immigrants, illegal immigrants, student visas, whatever you may have it. That's people who were not born here. Native born, the blue line, are people who were born here. They may be second generation immigrants. They may not speak the English language, but they were born in America. That's the only distinction between these two lines. The people who were not born here are way more employed than the people who were born here. Do you see? The people who were born here are less employed than the people who weren't. And it got way worse after COVID. Everybody lost their jobs during COVID, but the recovery went to the foreign-born much more than the native-born. Why? Well, there's those racial discriminations, those patronage networks where, an Indian person hires other Indian people, but there's also just H-1Bs are cheaper. These people get paid less than these people. The red line is cheaper than the blue line for the employer. That's why we're so against H-1Bs, because these people will work the same job for lower pay, and so they always box out the more expensive native-born citizen. All right, last tweet here. Biden flooded America with 30 million foreigners in 4 years, and now young Americans can't find jobs. This must be AI. A lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who are taking houses that ought by right to go to American citizens. What we're doing is trying to make it easier to build houses. We're also getting all of those illegal aliens out of the country. This was J.D. Vance based. J.D. Vance King. J.D. Vance, future Caesar of Christian Republic of America. J.D. Vance is saying the truth here. It was the Biden wave. The Biden wave of illegal immigrants who were just allowed to flood into our country. This wave of 30 million people who came into our country in 4 years is a huge factor. A huge factor. That happened during this graph, right? These people have taken jobs and houses. They are taking benefits. This is obviously a huge factor in what is going on right now. And we blame AI because AI is less political. So I thought that was a great thread here from Tom Brady. So I just wanted to touch on this. Don't listen to the doomers on AI too much. I do believe AI is going to be a huge revolutionary problem, but we've had other problems. We've got existing problems, and they're bigger problems. And it's a cope to say that in the last 2 years, AI has already revolutionized everything. And the problems that already existed, that's because of this new technology, AI. It's cope. It's cope. Don't listen to it. The truth is, we have a problem. We have a problem. It's been since the Industrial Revolution, really, with the labor force, but especially since 1965 Civil Rights Act, we've got these anti-discrimination issues as well, where there's just massive, massive patronage networks on the left, and on the right, colorblind meritocracy, marketplace of ideas where fewer and fewer jobs are going to the very few white people who can compete for them. Oh yeah, and they're all women, by the way. That's the picture that we see in America today, and so don't allow the cope of just blaming it all on AI. We need to repeal all of the anti-discrimination laws in this country. We need to get rid of all of the illegal foreigners in this country, all of the foreigners who are currently out competing the native-born citizens, and we need to stop the offshoring of our jobs to places like India and Argentina so that these companies can squeeze out a little bit more profit this quarter. Thank you, Tom Brady, for that. I hope that the Christian nationalist group, the Christians who are following these things, the Christians who want to love our country and love our people and reward our people and not allow these type of criminal political extraction from our people, will pay attention to this. Don't allow the AI boogeyman to explain it all away. And as in all things, let us glorify Christ in all that we do and build a nation worthy of his name. In Jesus' name, I say, may it be done. Amen.